And this morning we're completing our series on respecting our roots. We have been exploring the words that came to us from Meewasin Valley United Church, values that had stood in their space each week as they gathered in St. Andrew's College. And this morning we're going to explore the last of those words that we have been spending time with since October. We're going to explore being rooted in respect. We sing our way into this time in which we are gathered with one another. I want to welcome each of you who've taken your place in this circle in Edmonton on this cold morning, and each of you who have taken your place at St. Andrew's College in Saskatoon on this very cold morning. It's good to be together.
Good morning from snowy Saskatoon. Hi, Edmonton!
Now, in order for them to see our wave, we're going to have to do it again when Dara is ready. But we just want to say how glad we are to be together across these prairie miles. And you'll see that Nell and Curtis are with our friends in Saskatoon this morning as they gather. They've already been together for brunch and now are joining us for our spiritual gathering, and then we'll share in conversation and discussion with each other. So we take a moment now to send our greetings back to we will say hello, Saskatoon. Hello, Saskatoon. And we welcome those who are joining us online from wherever you find yourself this morning, whether you're joining us from Charlottetown or from Kelowna or from Scotland or from anywhere in the country or around the world. We welcome you. We're glad that you've chosen to spend this time with us. We gather as a spiritual community, those seeking to live more closely to the values that inspire us from the wisdom traditions around the world. We also gather, those of us in Edmonton and those of us in Saskatoon, gather on this Treaty 6 land, storied land, ancestral home to Cree and Métis peoples. And as we gather on this land, we do so with our gratitude for all that has made life possible here, for those of us who are newer comers to this land, whether it's generations ago or weeks ago. We are grateful to the partnership we share with our Indigenous brothers and sisters who teach us how to live well in this land. We gather this day also acknowledging that when we gather in the presence of light. If there were matches, there would be light. And lo, there are matches. When we light this candle, it reminds us of the ways we seek to live in the light of a new day, in gratitude for the long light out of which our lives come, and in connection with the light that is within each of us. And we light this candle that we might honor respectfully the light that is within each of us, and we might live in better relationship with our planet, with its creatures and its peoples, with ourselves, and with all that is sacred. We sing our commitment to live in more reconciling ways. This is the time, and this is the place, to come and share a story together. So if you'd like to gather a little closer and be able to see all the pictures, because not quite all of them are on the wall, I'd love to have you join me here on the carpet for our Time for All Ages. Hi, everybody. Come on down. There's still lots of room close here on the carpet. I'll back up a little bit so we can all get in. I want to share a fun story with you today. They already get it. I'll show you the cover too. Do unto otters. It's a story about a rabbit and an otter who are neighbors, as it happens. So, here we go. Here comes the rabbit. Doot-de-doo, 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 doot-de-donk. Hello, Mr. Rabbit. We're your new neighbors. We're the otters. Otters? Otters? My new neighbors are otters? I don't know anything about otters. What if we don't get along? And then you can see the rabbit's thinking. He's saying in his head, pesky otters. And the otters are saying, lousy rabbit. And then along comes this wise old owl who says, Mr. Rabbit, I know an old saying, do unto otters as you would have otters do unto you. Oh, look at the rabbit, he's lying on his back. What does that mean? And the wise old owl says, well, it just means to treat otters the same way that you'd like the otters to treat you. Treat otters like I'd like otters to treat me? How would I like otters to treat me? How would I like otters to treat me? Well, I'd like otters to be friendly. You know, a cheerful hello, howdy neighbor, a nice smile, good eye contact. All are part of being friendly. Friendliness is really important to me, especially after my last neighbor, Mrs. Grrr. His last neighbor was a bear. Yeah, a bear. I'd like otters to be polite. They should know when to say, please. And they should know when to say, thank you. And they should know when to say, excuse me. You see what he's saying, excuse me to? There's a burp. Otters should be honest. That means they should keep their promises. See the otter, he says, my word is as good as a gold fish. Then he says, otters shouldn't lie. Me, I don't lie. I never lie. It makes my whiskers itch. Otters shouldn't cheat. Cheating makes whiskers itch too. I wonder if I should see a doctor. Otters to be considerate. You know, like being a good listener, asking before borrowing something.
That's a moon.
Not littering. Yeah, it's a moon. Being patient. What are some other ways to be considerate? Opening the door for someone. Being on time. Respecting the elderly.
And stretching.
And helping neighbors untangle their ears. It's always good to have a considerate neighbor. It wouldn't hurt if otters were kind.
They're fish.
Everyone.
They're icy fish.
What's he doing?
Giving the fish to him.
The otter is giving fish to the rabbit. And it says everyone appreciates a kind act no matter how bad it smells. Oh, and what's that other word? I'd like otters to cooperate, to learn to cooperate. We should know how to co-otterate. I see otters like to play. I hope they know how to play fair. Look at all the signs they posted. Otters, rules for fair play, be a good sport, play by the rules, take turns, include everyone, even bees. I'd like it too if we could share things, you know, our favorite books. So, what's the otter's favorite book? Harry Otter. And what's the rabbit's favorite book? Goldilocks and the Three Hares. I'd like if we could share our favorite activities. So what's the otter's favorite activity?
Eating pizza.
It looks like a carrot pizza. And they're playing on the otter totter. And then they're playing Go Fish. And it would be nice if we could share our favorite treats, but then maybe not.
And the other one was eating.
The other one was eating fish. The otter was eating fish, you're right, and the rabbit was eating carrots. I hope otters won't tease me about my doo-dee-doo song and my extra large swim fins and my bad hair days. And I hope otters won't tease me about anything because teasing's mean. It's the worst. I think otters should also apologize if they do something wrong. Like when this otter apologizes, "I'm sorry I used your ear as tissue." And I hope they can be forgiving when I do something wrong. When the rabbit says, "I'm sorry I called you a snotter." "Oh, you," says that. So there. That's how I'd like otters to treat me. You see, Mr. Rabbit, I told you it was really simple. Right. Just doot-de-doo unto other otters as you would have otters doot-de-doo unto you. Well, Mr. Rabbit and the otter and the owl have come to teach us something we all know. It's about treating each other the way we'd like to be treated. And there's a chance to practice that this morning in preschool, in the jungle room, and in Kids Spirit in the small hall, and in Youth Cafe downstairs in the youth lounge with Dylan. So have a really good morning, everybody.
A poem by William Stafford called "You Reading This, Be Ready." Or "You Hearing This, Be Ready." Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor? What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you have found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. And the interval that you have spent reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone ever give you greater than now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. In the words of this poet,
from a body of collected writings that appear both in Matthew and somewhat differently in Luke, we find these words attributed to Jesus of Nazareth. But I say to you that listen, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who harm you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In this teaching attributed to Jesus of Nazareth, may we find wisdom for our living.
I grew up as a child of the Atlantic Ocean, on the beaches of the Bay of Chaleur, the Bay of Fundy, the Northumberland Strait, the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and those cold Atlantic waters off the coast of Nova Scotia. But it wasn't until I was a young adult and lived near the Pacific Ocean that I learned to respect the power of ocean. I learned never to turn my back on it. Otherwise, you lose a pair of glasses you'll never find again. I learned that the next wave may be very different than the last one, and that tides are to be honored. They always keep their appointment with land. And I think about what we learned about respect for what is hot as children, what not to touch, how to stay at a safe distance, how to protect ourselves from the sun. We learn to respect the power of fire. And we learned we can't live without oxygen very long. We have to exercise care with heating sources and fumes and ventilation, and we come to respect the element of air. And more, we're learning how intimate our relationship with Earth really is. That what we do to the land, we do to ourselves. What we do to the air, we do to ourselves. What we do to the water, we do to ourselves, and that our health is entirely dependent on the health of our planet. Our existence depends in a very large measure on our capacity to live with respect for the community of life. We're living in a time that requires our capacity for respect to stretch into even more cosmic proportions. But how do we get there? How do we get to a larger sense of respect? Maybe like the otter and the rabbit. We begin by practicing those most personal expressions of respect. How do we show respect for our bodies, for our minds, for our spirit? What nourishes us? How do we express our gratitude for what sustains us? How do we live with self-respect and its twin, respect for each other, treating one another the way we'd like to be treated? Every wisdom tradition teaches that fundamental principle, that golden rule. And in our tradition, this golden rule was a succinct way of compacting all the wisdom that came out of generations of tribal life that begins once upon a time in the world of the ancient story when there was an oppressed community that were united in their struggle for freedom against a common enemy. And once liberated from the power of a dictator, they were faced with a new reality, how to live with themselves and with each other. Without their shared fear and hatred for the Pharaoh, they had to adapt to a harsh environment, find a way to govern themselves, and shape freedom into a place where they could all live together. We call that story the Exodus. Even though in its own way it's really a parable of the responsibilities that come with living in a free society, a society that isn't subject to an emperor, a dictator, a king, but has to figure out how to organize its own freedom, how to take responsibility for ourselves in ways that we ensure that we remain free and life remains possible. In that old story, once they escaped the power of the Pharaoh, they were not united in their compassion for one another. They were united in their complaints. having escaped the proverbial Egypt, which literally means a narrow place, and having come into the wide and wild place of wilderness, they complain about everything they feel they lack: appetizing food, clean water, leadership and organization, lack of direction. So the moment comes in the story when that chaos has to be managed. Values have to be agreed upon. Ground rules have to be created. Isn't that always what drives our need to craft constitutions and bylaws and criminal codes and professional rules of conduct and administrative regulations? They come out of our need to order our lives by some common set of values and principles in response to the question always, what do we need to do so that life can flourish? That's one of the ways to see what this Sinai Summit was all about. These are not the prescription of an all-knowing, all-powerful sky god, writing rules in stone and then giving them to Moses. But instead, these principles we've called the Ten Commandments are really a community's consensus about how to keep human life human. They're like an early charter or an early constitution, a way of setting out what it will take to preserve goodness and protect ourselves from the worst in ourselves. For me, these 10 commandments are really more like 10 ways to spell respect. They hold many of the ingredients that keep human life human and have the power to inject unity into community. If we are to respect, number one, that we didn't make ourselves. To respect our interdependence. To recognize that we're all kin, we are all my relations. Number two, if we were to respect that we are subjects in relationship with other subjects. And reverence for life means that what is sacred can never be reduced to an object. Number three, respect what is holy. It is what has the capacity to make us whole. Number four, respect our need for rest. Nothing in the entire universe can sustain production forever. Number five, respect the wisdom of the long story. The long story of the universe in which we human ones are just the Johnny-come-latelys. Respect our histories, our ancestries, our story. Number six, respect all forms of life. Respect the sacredness of life and death, the web of being. Number seven, respect the faithfulness that sustains relationship. Number eight, respect and discern what does not belong to you. Number nine, respect truth. Number 10, respect what has been entrusted to others. Respect is what will keep us out of the narrow place, what will keep us free from our Egypts, the Egypts we build when we narrow our hearts and narrow our borders and narrow our beliefs and narrow our circle of care and narrow our sense of responsibility and narrow our duty to our own privilege. In the first century, in teachings passed along in the Jesus tradition, respect was spelt even more simply than it was in that code of 10 commandments at Sinai, as simply as this: do to others what you would have them do to you. Or to say it in the negative, restrain yourself from doing what you do not wish another to do to you. Give to another what you would wish to receive for yourself. Give respect. Earn respect. Receive respect. Or as the poet William Stafford reminds us, will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect you carry wherever you go right now? In this most disrespectful time in which we are living, in this time in which civility is replaced with crude and rude tweets, slogans of hatred, acts of violence against each other and against the more than human, and against our water and our air and our soil and against earth, our home, we are faced with relearning the value of this ancient and sacred teaching that respect is essential for protecting us from the worst in ourselves. And it's fundamental for any real semblance of community and planetary health. And if we lose it, if we lose our capacity for respect, we risk everything. Disrespect seems to be as contagious as the common cold. But ultimately, it's like a boomerang. It always comes back on its perpetrator. Because what we do to another, we do to ourselves. And what we do to our environment, we do to ourselves. And what we do to our enemy, we do to ourselves. Our disrespect ultimately becomes a self-inflicting wound. Shortly after the US election in 2016, this sign you see on the screen appeared on the wall of a cafe in Mendocino, one of our favorite places on the Northern California coast. These are the words of Michelle Obama: when they go low, we go high. And these words appear beside a rainbow, a symbol of diversity, but also a storied symbol from our tradition. That symbol of a never again promise made by a tribal god, a promise to never again author destruction, to never again harm the earth, its peoples, its creatures. When a new era in South Africa sought to unite its people as a rainbow nation, it was a call to embody a new kind of mutual respect that was essential to create a new social order. In this postmodern world, in the world of today's story, surely we can't miss the message that we are now the ones with the power to author the destruction and the harm of floods of all kinds, destructions of biblical proportions. We are the ones reminding ourselves with our rainbows that, like the God of the ancient story, we must find ways to respect and enhance the community of life. We are now the keepers of the never again promise. The Jesus tradition also speaks to us of this whole notion of when they go low, we're compelled to go higher. Because the best retaliation is not to return harm for harm. The best retaliation is to treat another as we would wish to be treated. In Northern Ireland, in Derry and in Belfast, you will find in many of the places that remember the troubles that separated one from another for so many generations in that land, you will find sprayed on stones and walls these words: the best retaliation is the laughter and freedom of our children. To go high is to treat another person, another species, a river, a field, with the best that we could ever hope to receive ourselves, and with the trust that respect breeds respect, because maybe it too is contagious, and it starts local and practices in order to become more global. And isn't that one of the reasons we come together with each other as spiritual community? To practice. To practice and practice and practice with each other, to learn a respect that's large enough to keep life safe on this pale blue dot. We seek to strengthen our intentions to live in these ways that we have been reflecting upon as we share this, our prayer, with one another. We open to this day in all its trouble and beauty. We are hopeful and despairing, grieving and grateful, broken-hearted and wholehearted. May our time together help us choose to live with respect in creation, allowing our living to open us, to make us less afraid and more accessible. May we awaken to see ourselves as part of all that is. Amen. We take time when we are with each other to express appreciation for the many gifts of time and effort and talent and financial support that each of you bring to this community, and to remind ourselves of the ways that we can support this community with our financial gifts in the purchase of grocery cards available in the foyer, by pre-authorized remittances, by giving online at our website, or by donating with cash or check to the box that you find at the back. Thank you for all that you contribute to make our life and work together possible. We also, from time to time, take opportunity to express appreciation to things that go unseen by many of us, and so I want to invite Margaret Powell to come and celebrate the gifts of someone that has done many things that haven't always been visible to all of us.
First, I would say this is a room full of people who, through their work, their daily lives, and those they touch, make a difference, either within these walls or in the community or in the world at large. But today we want to say our gratitude to one particular person that I know you'll all agree always goes beyond the call of duty. So would Judy Dubé come to the front? I couldn't see you, Judy. Oh, no, we subtly kept making sure you'd be here, but then I couldn't see you. Anyway, most of you will know Judy for the incredible job she has done and continues to do in helping to settle the Syrian family, Mohammed, Aisha, and their 4 children in Canada. Many people have helped, but it's been Judy who has made sure that everything came together and that all the family's needs are being met. From the time the family arrived and before, Judy has been available, and I mean available, making sure they're housed, fed, get to school, get to immigration, register in activities, learn to use the transit system, get to the doctors, get to the dentist, etc., etc. Most of all, she's become a true friend to the family, and they all know that they can count on her. And I think their refrain is, "Ask Judy." But that's not all that Judy does around here. She's been on the refugee committee for the 2 young people who came from Ethiopia, Mabratia and Amasela, and helped with other newcomers whom we have sponsored. Helps with the food bank, takes her turn at the welcome table, is part of the Truth and Reconciliation group, sometimes helps with young children, helps to coordinate refreshments for memorial services, was on the outreach committee, on the Southern Homes Board. What have I missed? You may think that this is all that this would consume all her time, but Judy has other experiences of working with new Canadians through her previous work at the African Centre preschool program. Her work with the Stephen Lewis Foundation, Grandmothers to Grandmothers, and she actually went to Africa to attend a conference on their behalf. Judy also worked for the school board in developing the highly successful Terra program for teenage girls with a baby so that they could finish high school. What else did she do? Her present work is with an organization, Multicultural Health Brokers, which contracts with the school board to act as a liaison between New Canadians and the schools in the Mayfield area. Judy, we're very grateful for all the experiences you bring to us and for your compassion and your caring, for your endless energy, and for always coming up with new ideas that we can do to make everything better. So thank you. I'm sure we all appreciate the work you do.
Go forth into the world in peace. Go forth into the world in peace. Go forth into the world. Go forth into the world in peace. Hold fast to what is good. Hold fast to what is right. Repay no hatred, support the faint of heart. Give strength unto the weak. Go forth in the
These are the words of Richard Wagamis, who sends us forth on this day. From our very first breath, we are in relationship. With that indrawn draft of air, we become joined to everything that ever was, is, and ever will be. When we exhale, we forge relationship by virtue of the act of living. Our breath commingles with all breath, and we're part of everything. We are born into a state of relationship, and our ceremonies and rituals are guides to lead us deeper into that relationship with all things. Big lesson. Relationships never end. They just change. In believing that lies the freedom to carry compassion, empathy, love, kindness, and respect into and through whatever changes. We are made more by that practice.